SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Discover the Copiah Advantage. Copiah County is a Mid-South gem with a spirit of opportunity, a business-friendly environment, and access to major transportation networks. Copiah County, let's do business. Visit copiahworks.com today and discover the Copiah Advantage.
Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive.
Hey, what's up? Good morning. Middle of the week. 6/11/25, the 11th day of June, 2025. We are approaching the longest day of the year in terms of daylight. That comes up a little less than a week from now. It also means we are approaching the halfway point of the year. Man, we were just flipping the calendar from 24 to 25, and here we are closing in on the middle of June. That's how it goes. It goes fast. Alongside Lance Talbert, I'm Richard Cross. Glad to be with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. You're right about time. Goodness, I mean, it was January the 1st a minute ago. So it'll be January 1st in a few minutes, it feels like. But goodness gracious, the longest day of the year is coming, and we're already at the halfway point. Man. Time flies.
For no one.
No, it doesn't.
No one. It is a fun time of the year, though. Into that summertime where you're a little more lax with bedtime. I am finding out in this particular job, can't be any more lax with wake-up time, though. Still got to get up, regardless of when the kids go to bed or when you go to bed. But you know what? You eat dinner a little bit later at night, or supper if you prefer. And it's just a little more chill. Lance says he's going to the beach at some point this summer. He's just got to plan it. Yeah. We're still in the planning stages?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, haven't figured that one out yet, but we'll get there.
There you go.
We'll whittle it down.
And you get a lot of days with a lot of sunshine. Today is one of those days. Partly cloudy, high of 88 today in Corinth. Winds light and variable. Duck Hill. Something tells me you've spent time in Duck Hill.
I've blown through there many a time. I'm trying to think, isn't that Camp McCain in that area? And Grenada?
Yeah, just south of Grenada.
Yeah, been through there many a time. Goodness.
Partly cloudy skies, 92 degrees today in Duck Hill. Winds light. Collins, you got a mix of clouds and sun this morning. Cloudy this afternoon. Stray shower or thunderstorm possible, 89 degrees, light and variable winds. And Pascagoula. You know, one of my favorite Jimmy Buffett songs is the Pascagoula Run.
Mm-hmm. It's hard for me with him. I just grew up listening to so much Buffett. I think the last big disc that I, just couldn't put down was Off to See the Lizard, and pretty much every one before that. So you just grew up on it. It's hard to pick it's kind of, every song is nostalgia. It's like a piece of my childhood, when you listen. So it's hard to pick for me. I don't know. That's one of the few artists, though, that I go, I don't really have a favorite. There's just too many good ones.
I'm with you. But I do I probably tier them. When you get a line like Friday night at the State Line Bar where the waterfolk people dwell, better watch my step. If the floor caves in, I'll go right straight to hell. I mean, that's some good writing there.
Well, I mean, to me, the simple stuff, too, that, blew out my flip-flop, stepped on a pop-top.
Yeah.
That kind of, it's just he had it all in the bag, man. Yeah. He had it all.
We had this conversation over the weekend, and got to talking about the Pascagoula Run with a buddy of mine who was originally from the coast, from Pascagoula. Anyway, partly cloudy today in Pascagoula, stray shower, thunderstorm possible, 86 degrees. Winds out of the southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Man, there are a lot of birthdays today of interest. There are a lot of things that happened on this day of interest. We got some big news stories. We got some, I think, big sports stories. And then we've got what's California. Holy moly. It's almost like we talked yesterday morning about, hey, the thing we should be afraid about is this stuff spreading. Atlanta, welcome to the show. Austin, New York, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco.
You got a CNN protest tracker. So you know you're made the big time now.
I hope they got a lot of code lines available to keep adding cities because it's going to get worse. Copycats. Organized, trying to recreate 2020. Jeanette Rankin, American politician, the first woman elected to the United States Congress. She was a Republican from Montana, women's rights advocate, and a pacifist. Born in Missoula, Montana in 1880. Jacques Cousteau was born on this day in 1910, the French oceanic explorer. He was a French naval officer, an oceanographer, a filmmaker, an author. Co-invented the first successful open-circuit, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Yes, the acronym for that phrase is SCUBA. He invented that. Called it the Aqualung. Assisted him in producing some of the first underwater documentaries. Hosted The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau for a little over a decade. And then a second documentary series, The Cousteau Odyssey. That was from 1977 until 1982. What an interesting guy.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows him. It's one of hey, could you name anybody else that was in the water 24/7 that you could name their name? I mean, he invented, to me, the underwater exploration, the videography and the cinematography of what you see underwater. And I mean, when you think of the ocean, you think of Jacques Cousteau. I mean, I do. I don't know what about y'all. And mermaids, that's about what I think of.
Jacques Cousteau, Ariel.
Yeah. I mean, he's in that boat, man. I mean, what a famous guy and amazing, the Aqualung. Think about that. How do you test that? You're like, all right, let's give it a run.
Go a little farther today. We'll see if this works.
Yeah.
The great Vince Lombardi, born on this day in 1913, American Pro Football Hall of Fame coach of the Green Bay Packers from 1959 until 67, coach of the year in both 59 and 61, winner of Super Bowls 1 and 2, born in Brooklyn, New York. Vince said, what the hell's going on out there? The great Vince Lombardi. Gene Wilder, born on this day in 1933.
I was hoping you weren't going to skip that one.
He rode a blazing saddle.
There's nobody with a better comb-over. That you don't know if it was a comb-over or not, but he was Gene Wilder. I mean,
Candyman.
Greatest guy.
Silver Streak, Young Frankenstein, born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Henry Hill, born on this day in 1943. You may not know that name, but I bet you will. American mobster, FBI informant. He was the subject of Nicholas Pileggi's book, Wise Guy, which was later adapted into Martin Scorsese's film, Goodfellas. Born in Brooklyn, New York.
I'm here to amuse you. Am I funny? I'm here to amuse you. No.
On this day in 1956, Joe Montana was born. Joe Montana? Yes, the great Joe Montana, Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback, MVP of Super Bowl 81, MVP of Super Bowl 84, winner of Super Bowl 88, MVP of Super Bowl 89.
And Joe Cool.
Three-time first-team All-Pro quarterback, 8-time Pro Bowler, born in New Eagle, Pennsylvania.
What a player.
This is not as significant a birthday, but I couldn't not recognize the Chocolate City. 69 years old today, born in 1956, former New Orleans mayor Ray Nagin. He's a Big Easy native.
Where is he now?
Is that a trick question?
No, I'm going to look it up. Yeah.
I'm assuming jail's the answer, but probably not.
So I'm just... I was like,
Diana Taurasi, born on this day in 1982, one of the all-time great women's basketball players, 10-time All-Star, a gold medalist 5 times over, 2004, 2008, 12, 16, and 20, born in Glendale, California. What's Nagin doing?
Well, he was sentenced to 10 years in 2014, and I'm still sifting through it to see.
Well, he's probably just out.
Yeah,
Or unless it got cut short.
Yeah, cut short, maybe.
Sure, he's got a better perspective on life. Bet it did him well.
They got that Chocolate City speech right there in his bio.
Hey, help me make this make sense. It was on this day in 1947, so June 11th, when perennial Christmas film Miracle on 34th Street was released. Why are you releasing Miracle on 34th Street in June?
Didn't they do wasn't that one of the Bing Crosby or whatever with the White Christmas did the same thing? We talked about that about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago. No, it was
I can't remember what
Bing
song
Crosby? It was one of the Christmas classics, and it released in or late May, early June.
Mm-hmm. Getting a jump start.
Got a few other things that happened on this day. We'll tell you about them when we come back and get into some news headlines. Lieutenant Governor going to join us this morning. Delbert Hosemann coming up in studio in the 7 o'clock hour. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Get in the jail.
Friend named Ramblin' Bob. He used to steal, gamble, and rob. He thought he was the smartest guy around. Well, I found out last Monday that Bob got locked up Sunday. They've got him in the jailhouse way downtown.
Ray
He's in the
Nagin.
jailhouse now. He's in the jailhouse
Chocolate City.
Well, I told
Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross. Happy birthday, Ray.
Yeah, that was for him.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, he did get out during COVID, though, so he was house arrested.
C-Spire text line, we learned something. Miracle on 34th Street was released in June 1947 because 20th Century Fox studio head Daryl Zanuck believed that more people went to the movies during the summer months. Despite the film being a Christmas classic set during the holiday season, Zanuck insisted on May-June as the release. To accommodate this, the studio's marketing campaign downplayed or even hid the Christmas theme in trailers and advertisements, sometimes even featuring actors not in the film to promote it without mentioning the holiday setting. I'll take dumber than a sack of hammers for $500.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of work for. Sometimes the path of least
I don't know. Maybe
resistance
1947 Christmas was a less big deal than it is now. And I'm not being flippant when I say that. Like maybe it wasn't as commercialized. But man, going to the movies over the Thanksgiving Christmas break is a big, big part of a lot of families' tradition.
Oh, I'm in. Yeah, that's the only time I really ever make it to the movies is during the winter holidays.
Yeah. On this day in 1982, this actually might make you feel a little older than you'd like to. E.T. is released, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Henry Thomas and Drew Barrymore.
E.T. Phone Home.
Elliot. This day in 1990, Major League Baseball, Texas Rangers' Nolan Ryan pitches his 6th of 7 career no-hitters, beating Oakland in the 9th inning. Retired Ken Phelps, Ricky Henderson, and Willie Randolph for the final 3 outs of the game. 1991, Natalie Cole releases Unforgettable with Love, covering her father's standards, including a virtual duet of the title track, Unforgettable. It was good. It is good. 6 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year in 1992. You know, there aren't many people that can pull off what she pulled off with that album. And maybe you're a Nat King Cole guy and you like wish Natalie had just well enough alone. No, but
I love seeing
good.
that. I love it when the siblings get together or the child of a famous musician and continue the craft. I love that.
2002 American Idol, created by Simon Fuller with judges Simon Cowell, Paula Abdul, and Randy Jackson, appeared and premiered on Fox. 2002. We just finished season 23, I believe it was. 23 or 24. 2004, Ronald Reagan's funeral held at Washington National Cathedral. And finally, in 2019, music history. You remember this? New York Times revealed an estimated 500,000 song titles, including masters of Chuck Berry, Louis Armstrong, and Ella Fitzgerald, were lost in the 2008 warehouse fire on Universal Backlot in Los Angeles.
Man.
That big old fire they had back in 2008. All right.
I don't remember that, actually, but I know there was
I remember the fire. I don't remember the New York Times only 7 years ago revealing that all of that, the masters of those were lost. Ooh, you want to talk about some dollars up in smoke.
Yeah, whoever was managing that warehouse, too, their career probably up in smoke.
Probably so.
That's some historic stuff there.
Beginning next month, consumers in Mississippi are going to have no question as to where the food on their plate is coming from, at least if it's from the sea. Earlier this year, legislature passed House Bill 602, requiring all seafood and crawfish sold in the state be labeled as either imported or domestic. New law goes into effect July 1st, includes all seafood and crawfish sold by wholesalers, processors, retailers, and food service establishments, including distributors, grocery stores, markets, restaurants, and food trucks. Oversight and enforcement will belong to the Department of Marine Resources and the Department of Agriculture. It's created after the brouhaha down on the coast last year, after Biloxi Eatery, Mary Mahoney's old French house, and its co-owner were sentenced for importing thousands of pounds of foreign seafood and mislabeling them as locally caught from the Mississippi Sound of Vietnam. The restaurant supplier Quality Poultry and Seafood, and two of its managers were subsequently handed sentences for purposely mislabeling seafood before distribution. They were the largest seafood distributor on the Mississippi Gulf Coast at the time. The Skills Foundation of Mississippi has awarded 29 $1,000 signing bonuses to high school seniors at 7 different schools across the state who are pursuing skilled careers. Students entering industries like construction, healthcare, energy, IT, and manufacturing are eligible for the bonuses. It's meant to cover some of the costs that come with starting a new career. The Skills Foundation launched Skills That Pay in 2022 to connect students, Mississippi students, parents, and other stakeholders to educate them on the benefits of pursuing skilled careers out of high school. Good stuff. Man, it sure would have been nice to have a check in my pocket for $1,000 when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
Another donation has been made to help bring a public park to the old location of the Eudora Welty Library in Jackson. This is a cool story. Junior League of Jackson, a women's organization with a mission that includes creating a better community, announced a $100,000 donation to the Foundation for Mississippi History to support the creation of Margaret Ann Krigler Park, a new public green space in the works for downtown Jackson. Located next to the 2 Mississippi museums, it includes the Mississippi History Museum and Civil Rights Museum. Designed to be a vibrant gathering place for families, students, and museum visitors, will feature native landscaping, an open lawn, children's play area, and an outdoor stage. Will connect to Jackson's growing museum trail, which is currently about 3 miles of walking, running, and bike paths, conjoining different parts of the city. So, this is historically significant. 2 years ago, the Department of Archives and History acquired the former Eudora Welty Library property with plans to replace the building with a new public park and a green space. The plans aligned with the original layout for Jackson from 1822. And that included public green spaces on alternating blocks. Only 2 parks remain from the original layout, the old Capitol Green and Smith Park. That's really neat. And cities that have green spaces and downtown areas, they're like, there's just something special about that. Really, really cool. Debbie in Ocean Springs tells us on the C Spire text line it was reported this morning that the lawsuit against Mary Mahoney's and Quality Seafood has been dismissed. Thanks for that, Debbie. I missed that story. Very good. I guess. Be interested to see what the rationale is there. And finally, one more news headline for you from right here in the Magnolia State. Monday, the Mississippi ACLU and others filed a federal lawsuit against 4 state education boards challenging the constitutionality of the recently passed bill that bars public academic institutions from including diversity, equity, and inclusion issues in their teaching. House Bill 1193, passed by both chambers, signed by Governor Reeves on April 17th, prohibits public colleges, universities, and K-12 schools from engaging in any formal or informal education that focuses on increasing awareness of or understanding of issues related to race, sex, color, gender identity, sexual orientation, or national origin. The suit named the defendants in the case the IHL, Community College Board, State Board of Education, and the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board. It alleges that House Bill 1193 violates the First and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. Plaintiffs claim that the anti-DEI law, which goes into effect on July 1st, would ban teachers and students from discussing critical issues like slavery, the Civil War, various forms of discrimination in the past and present, the civil rights movement, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, and others. I understand that's what the lawsuit says. I'm not sure that's exactly what the law means or intends. I don't think we're not going to talk about history anymore. Also alleges in the lawsuit that traditional literary works by authors like Richard Wright, Toni Morrison, William Faulkner, Jane Austen, Rita Mae Brown, and others would be banned from schools. The plaintiffs are asking the federal court in Hinds County to find the law unconstitutional in violation of those First and 14th Amendments, asking them to issue a preliminary injunction to prevent the law from being enforced, followed by a permanent injunction. We shall see where this one goes. We will keep an eye on that. Sports headlines coming up. More good news for Jackson State athletics. More good news for track and field at Ole Miss and Mississippi State. More slowdowns coming to college basketball. And hey, the NCAA says we're not going to go broke anymore. We'll give you the details coming up next.
From the mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You gotta be strong. Well, it's all right. As long as you got somewhere to lay. Well, it's all right. Every day is Judgment Day.
Maybe somewhere down the road away,
at the end of the line,
you'll think of me.
Got another award for Jackson State's national title-winning football coach T.C. Taylor. Jackson State's athletics department announced yesterday that Taylor was honored at the Black College Football Hall of Fame on Saturday, being named Black Football Coach of the Year after leading the Tigers to a 12-2 record last season. They ended their season with the longest winning streak in FCS football, 10 consecutive, including a Southwestern Athletic Conference championship, SWAC title, and a win over South Carolina State in the Cricket Celebration Bowl. That's the HBCU National Championship game. Taylor was also named to the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year watch list. He helped Jackson State go on to be the National Team of the Year. 2024 group was highlighted by the SWAC Offensive Player of the Year, Irv Mulligan, and the SWAC Freshman of the Year, Travis Terrell Jr. Mulligan chasing his dreams on the professional level now, but Terrell will be back to lead the running back core this season. Jackson State will begin its football campaign on August 30th against Hampton.
Hey, man, that was what a hire, though. After having a Deion Sanders here.
How good has that been?
Man, he's been something else. Well deserving of the awards, and I love watching Jackson State football, and then you get the band. Come on.
There you go.
That's something else.
Mississippi's two SEC track and field programs are well represented at the conference's annual awards. On Monday, Ole Miss officials announced that men's track and field junior and three-time reigning NCAA shot put champion Tariq Robinson O'Hagan is the 2025 Outdoor Men's Field Athlete of the Year. And for Mississippi State, Bulldog middle distance runner Abdullahi Hassan has been named the SEC Men's Newcomer Runner of the Year. So let's talk about Robinson O'Hagan just for a second. He passed four-time Olympian and Ole Miss legend Brittany Reese for the most SEC Field Athlete of the Year awards in Ole Miss history. This was his fourth. Last weekend, Ole Miss competing in the NCAA East Regional in Jacksonville, Florida. Robinson O'Hagan, a Rhode Island native, punched his third consecutive outdoor national double ticket in the shot and the hammer. In the hammer, he took down the East Regional record on his top qualifying toss of 74.51 meters. That's 244 and a half feet in the first round. Prior to the Ole Miss standout accomplishing the feat, no athlete in the history of the East Regional had ever even eclipsed 243 feet. He carried the momentum into the shot put, where his stadium record and season best of 68 feet 5 inches immediately secured his return trip to Eugene, Oregon. The SEC Outdoor Championships, Robinson O'Hagan claimed his third straight men's hammer title with a school record throw of 248.05, which is the second best mark in SEC meet history and the fourth best in conference history. 9 career SEC championships for Robinson O'Hagan. That's amazing.
Something like we have like Chariots of Fire music playing or something.
Dun, dun,
yeah,
dun, dun,
that's amazing, dude. Thinking about being that, that many trophies and, I don't know, man. I mean, I played college sports, but
room in his
you're
house.
going to have to put a whole room aside for all that. And throwing the hammer.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And the shot put. I remember my dad, he would tell me when I was young playing football, and he said, you got to do track, because back in the day, track was part of football. You always did that along with and in tandem with. And he said, you have to learn how to throw that shot put. And he had an old putt. I think it was just an old small cannonball. And he'd be like, all right, this is how you do it. And he'd show me. I was little, man. And that thing weighed a ton, it felt like. And to watch somebody throw it 10 feet was like a remarkable accomplishment to me. Watching those guys chunk it, though, man.
This is throwing the hammer 82 yards on a football field.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they chunk it, man. I mean,
the number of people on planet Earth that can throw a football 82 yards is small.
Yeah.
Over at Mississippi State, Hassan has been a staple in the middle distance group for Mississippi State this year, leading the squad in both the 800-meter and the 1,500-meter. He's remained in the top 6 nationally for the entirety of the outdoor season and posted a personal best time of 1:45.39 earlier this season. That was in the 1,500.
Yeah, you could like multiply that times 10. I mean, that'd be maybe where I'm coming in.
Yeah. A few new rules changes have been approved by the NCAA ahead of the upcoming college basketball season. I labeled this, I wrote my own headline, More Slowdowns Coming to College Basketball. The league is now allowing a coach's challenge at any point of a game to review an out-of-bounds call, basket interference, goaltending, and whether a secondary defender was in the restricted area, the arc, under the basket, on a charge call. So under this new coach's challenge rule, teams must have a timeout to request an instant replay review challenge. If the review challenge is successful, you retain one additional video review challenge for the rest of the game, including overtime. But if you are wrong in your challenge, you lose the ability to challenge for the remainder of the game. In addition to that, officials can initiate video reviews on basket interference, goaltending, restricted arc play in the last 2 minutes of the game and into overtime. They cannot conduct a video review on out-of-bounds calls, though, unless it's challenged by a coach. Coach's challenge will not impact the officials' voluntary use of instant replay for timing mistakes, scoring errors, shot clock violations, 2-point versus 3-point attempts, flagrant fouls, and other technical aspects of the game. Wonderful.
Nice, yeah. That's interesting.
I mean, the flow in college basketball games, not all the time, but in a lot of games, really, really struggles. This ain't gonna help.
The last 3 to 5 minutes, in many cases, it's almost unwatchable at times. It's like watching a pitcher just throw balls. You know, I mean, that's the way a lot of the back end of a game can be. Mm-hmm. It just slows down to a snail's pace. It doesn't seem to have any flow to it.
No flow whatsoever. I saw in the national championship game last year, you get to the end, it's like every close play gets reviewed. Mm-hmm. How about we get it right in real time? I know it's hard. NCAA President Charlie Baker told hundreds of collegiate athletics administrators during a keynote address yesterday that the recent multi-billion-dollar House settlement approval creates, quote, a far better future, close quote, for the organization, and one that comes with choices instead of bankruptcy. Baker made his first public comment since Judge Claudia Wilkin approved the deal between the NCAA, its most powerful conferences, and lawyers representing all Division I athletes, as he addressed the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics. That's a mouthful. That's NACTA. The House versus NCAA settlement reached last Friday ends 3 separate federal antitrust lawsuits, all of which claim the NCAA was illegally limiting the earning power of college athletes. Baker told the assembled group, "No one in this room needs to hear me say that this is one of the biggest changes ever in college sports. I hope you also understand that it's a far better future than virtually every other alternative that could have been in front of us. Blame whoever you wish to blame, but the simple truth is clear. College sports' collective inability or unwillingness to change years ago put the entire enterprise at risk. Is the settlement disruptive? Very much so. But it is an opportunity for the D1 community to pay for back damages over 10 years instead of triple that amount all at once. And it creates a future that comes with choices instead of bankruptcy. As a result of the settlement, you may have heard these numbers. They are staggering numbers. The NCAA will pay nearly $2.8 billion in back damages to athletes that played in college any time from 2016 through the present. But they get 10 years to pay out that money. In addition, schools are now permitted to pay athletes up to $20.5 million in revenue sharing beginning this year, beginning July 1st. $20.5 million. Now, if you think that the NCAA and college athletics is just out of the woods completely now, then you are intoxicated. There are more lawsuits that will be coming. There's a lot to learn about this process. Schools can now directly pay players. And any additional NIL deals, true name, image, and likeness deals, are going to have to go through a clearinghouse if the value is more than $600. It's a lot. It is very, very different. In the words of my good friend Brian Haydad, just get us to the games. The games are what we love. Y'all figure out all the rest. We will take a look at an update from the Mississippi Lottery. Next, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Your morning sports update was brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Visit them online at pearlriverresort.com, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com. Richard Cross, Lance Talbert with you on this Wednesday morning. A nice day. I know I'm north of you by about 150 miles. But when you walked outside this morning, did it feel just a little touch of cool?
It was nice. Okay. I mean, I normally have a little brow sweat as I'm breaking out the front door and hustling.
No brow sweat
not today, though. Yeah, it was nice.
There you go. Here's your lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. MSLottery.com is their website. Lotto America. Estimated jackpot for tonight. This is old. I don't have the right day, do I? Yeah, I do. $2.05 million for Lotto America tonight. Estimated cash value, $920,000. Monday night's numbers were 6, 14, 35, 44, 49. Starball was 5. The All-Star bonus multiplier was 2. No jackpot winner on Monday night for Powerball. It recently reset. Tonight's jackpot is $65 million. Cash value, $29,200,000. Monday night's numbers, 30, 33, 40, 43, 52. The Powerball was 25. The Power Play multiplier was 4.
Well, double play numbers from Monday, June 9th, 1, 7, 24, 50, 59, Powerball of 11. And Mega Millions, no jackpot yet as far as the winners go. Big jackpot for you to win, $264 million. That drawing is going to be Friday, June the 13th. You can take home about $117 million with the $300,000 in there, too. Numbers from Tuesday the 10th, 10, 11, 14, 38, 45, Mega Ball of 24.
No jackpot winner for Mississippi Match 5, estimated tonight $54,000. Last night's numbers 4, 8, 10, 15, 21.
Cash 3, $500 midday Tuesday numbers 731, evening 756. Cash 4, $5,000 midday 0419. Evening numbers 0234. Fireball of 3 in both the midday and the evening. Cash pop of 4 midday. Evening cash pop of 5.
The Mississippi Lottery is ending 8 scratch-off games, and they are going out with a bang. A special second chance promotion drawing tied to these games will award an incredible $1 million in prizes. The final day to buy or sell these tickets is Tuesday, July 8th of this year. The games that are being retired, at least for now, $10 Win It All, Cash Windfall, Hamilton, and 100X Cash Blitz. $5 games, Cash Blast, Bonus Cash Word, and Moneymaker. And the $1 favorite, Winna Chicken Dinner. If you've got a winning ticket from any of these, the last day to claim your prize is Monday, October 6th. And don't toss out those non-winning tickets. Enter them into the second chance drawing by Monday, October 6th, for a shot at part of $1,080,000. Winners will be notified by certified mail. For details and to become a Mississippi Lottery insider, visit mslottery.com. Had some winners yesterday. Columbia man won $1,350 on a ticket from Ramey's in Columbia. A Columbus woman won $3,600 on 3 tickets from County Mart and Texaco Food Mart in Columbus.
We had some cash pop winners in there. Players from Ridgeland and Corinth each won $1,000 on tickets from a Food Mart in Hazelhurst and 72 Express in Burnsville. Players from Tupelo, Macon, and Jackson each won $1,250 on tickets from Hulka One Stop in Hulka and Macon, Exxon and Macon, and the JOT Shell in Byram. And then a match 5 winners, Nettleton man won $800 and a South Haven woman won $804.
That's good.
Yeah, I got a big one coming up for you to announce.
Sapphire Blue, that $5 scratch off. A Sardis woman won a top prize of $100,000 on a ticket from Discount Beer and Tobacco in Batesville. 100 large.
Down the street from you, man.
Yes, sir.
Well, the $20 200-time Cash Blitz winners, players from Corinth and Ridgeland, they each won $1,000 on tickets from Sprint Mart in Corinth and Sprint Mart in Ridgeland. Hot spot there, that Sprint Mart. And 2 players from Amory both each won $1,000, both from Sprint Mart in West Point.
That's great. Gaucher woman won $2,000 on a ticket from Keith's Superstore in Van Cleve. That was on a $20 scratch-off. I don't know the tendencies of the regular scratch-off community. I'm assuming that the $1, $2, $5 scratch-offs, they sell more of those than the $10 and $20 tickets? You think that's right?
I bet, yeah. $20 is a pop, you know. I mean,
yeah, it is.
So the 1s and 5s, that's in my sweet spot right now. You know, get the $1 ticket, do the double on it, and live to fight another day. You know?
There you go. Dr. Dan Edney going to join us to start the 8 o'clock this morning. We'll get an update from the State Health Department, what's going on with West Nile in Mississippi, plus some other public health concerns as we roll toward the summer months. Also, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, about 20 minutes from right now, going to join us in studio. We got a lot to get to. And primarily, we're going to look ahead. 2025 session in the rearview mirror. What's on the docket for 2026? And what does the lieutenant governor do when the legislature is not in session? How does he connect with the entire state of Mississippi? Glad to be with you this morning. Streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
This new life is just a bust. He ain't trying to change nobody. He's just trying real hard to adjust.
Your home.
Telesouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
Now that I'm starting to learn, I feel I'm growing old. 'Cause yesterday's got nothing for me. Oh, pictures that I'll always see. Time just fades the pages in my book of memories. Friends in my pocket and no hand in destiny. I keep on moving along with no time to plant my feet. 'Cause yesterday's got nothing for me. Oh, pictures that I'll always see. Some things could be better if we don't just let them be. Yesterday got nothing for me.
What's going on, man? What's happening? I lose you? Well, it looks like we may be having a technical issue here while Richard figures this out.
There we go.
There he is.
I don't know what happened, man.
I thought you were just letting it play.
No. I mean, I was, and then I was looking at the clock. I was like, we're supposed to be talking right now. What's going on?
Oh.
And then I looked over, and there was a squirrel decided to say, "You will not talk right now." So,
Hey, I have one thing I wanted to say as
Tell it.
we get into the 7 o'clock. Yeah, this is the power of radio and TV and what it means to me to be a Mississippian. And I wanted to take a second and say, Jason, thank you so much from Pearl. Jason is in Burbank, California working. He's not out there protesting. So, yeah, he's out there working.
thanks for clearing that part up.
They didn't bring him in to go protest. So he's doing a real job and out there in California. And yesterday he texts on the text line. He's one of our listeners. And he goes, Lance, I know you like a good burger. You need to go to Nona's in Pearl. Know those folks, very good guys. I said, on my way home today, I got to run by Garden Mama and drop off something, and I'll swing that way. Went in there, ordered me a great burger. They have a beautiful setup. It's like an old school diner. And a couple people like, I kind of recognize your voice. I said, yeah, they let me get on air every now and again. So, and I was talking, I said, well, this guy named Jason from Pearl told me to come here and get a burger. And long-haired beard guy said, hey, I'm Jason, and I'm not the one that said that. I said, well, okay. But he happened to be the owner. And so it was just a small world. Well, they actually have a band called Lazy Lightning. It's a Grateful Dead cover band. They've been doing this for a long time. Yeah. But I just wanted to say, that's Mississippi. I just met some really amazing people because one of our listeners in California told me where to go get a great burger. And on top of it, it was an amazing burger. So I just wanted to say, guys,
Beautiful.
Thank y'all.
Sounds like you might go back.
Oh, I will be back, man. That place, they have fried bologna sandwiches and meat in threes. It was amazing. But at the end of the day, it's just really the connectivity. And I greatly appreciated that, Jason. So thank you.
This morning, this hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. Full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. We use MWG Employer Services. Really, once you figure it out, easy to use dashboard. It's on there just this morning. You just
got to remember your password, and then you're good.
Well, I've got that saved in my computer, and it always sends me the text message asking me, here's the code to log in. Donald Trump this morning getting after it on Truth Social. He's got good news, I suppose. Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me. Full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied up front by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. We are getting a total of 55% tariffs. China's getting 10%. Relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That's from real Donald Trump on Truth Social this morning. Wonder how the markets are going to react to that. I would guess favorably. We'll see. I loved this tweet last night, this post last night from Charlie Kirk. He says, Mayor Karen Bass is imposing a curfew on Los Angeles to manage the out-of-control peacefulness. Peaceful protest is what we've heard over and over again. Here's the mayor of the City of Angels.
I wanted to let the city know that I have declared a local emergency and issued a curfew for downtown Los Angeles to stop the vandalism, to stop the looting. Many businesses have now been affected by or vandalized. Last night, there were 23 businesses that were looted, and I think that if you drive through downtown LA, the graffiti is everywhere and has caused significant damages to businesses and a number of properties. So my message to you is, if you do not live or work in downtown LA, avoid the area. Law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew, and you will be prosecuted. Hundreds of officers from police and sheriff departments from across the region and state are working alongside LAPD through a unified command structure. The curfew will be in place tonight from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m.
All right, so we're in Central Time, so they got an hour left in the curfew. No early morning walks in downtown L.A. You'll be arrested. She said prosecuted also. I don't know what that really means because they don't really prosecute anybody in California. They just seem to let all the criminals go. That's, of course, after they let them in the first place. But, hey, all that peacefulness required the curfew to be put in place in Los Angeles. Did you think it was going to stick to just L.A.? Forget about it. That's not how this works. We talked about it yesterday morning. I said to you multiple times yesterday, my biggest fear in this is that it spreads. Well, last night it spread. Spread to New York City, spread to Chicago, spread to San Francisco, spread to Seattle, spread to Austin, spread to Atlanta. Nothing like turning on the news and seeing Atlanta look like a war zone with thugs and criminals for what? For what, right? I mean, are they protesting in Atlanta the exact same thing that was being protested in Los Angeles? Or are they just looking at an opportunity to, hey, today's the day that I can stomp on the windshield of a cop car and not get arrested for it? Newsom says, by the way, in case you needed any reminder, that all of this is at least loosely coordinated. Gavin Newsom made sure that hey, yeah, it's Los Angeles right now, but it's not going to be just Los Angeles.
But it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next.
Is democracy next? Or is opportunistic insurrectionism next? It's funny how we turn the words to fit the narrative, right? It was an insurrection at the Capitol. These have been peaceful protests. The damage that was done at the Capitol. And by the way, I'm not someone who blindly goes, oh, January 6th was a hoax. No, I'm not. January 6th was a black eye on the United States. It never should have happened. Although the blame is shifting. You know, we've heard, why didn't Donald Trump call in the National Guard for D.C.? When we know that at least it was discussed with the White House, and Nancy Pelosi put up a stop sign. But yesterday you had Nancy Pelosi standing in a microphone and saying, we begged the president to send in the National Guard. You are lying. You're lying. You're making stuff up. But here's the thing. That's what they do. Gavin Newsom has lied to you over and over and over and over. Nancy Pelosi has lied to you over and over. I'm not saying that Republicans don't sometimes lie also. But the amnesia that exists among Democrats when a microphone is stuck in front of their face is mind-boggling. And you know why they do it? They do it because they think you're stupid. They do it because they think they can get away with it. And a lot of times they do. They do it because the legacy media allows them to do it. Gavin Newsom made a speech last night. Nobody could hear it. You know why? Because they screwed up the audio. I mean, Gavin Newsom might would have pointed to that one day as, hey, this was the day that I launched my presidential campaign. If anybody could have heard what I actually said. And, oh, by the way, did you hear about Gavin Newsom lying about the phone call? Remember, Trump said, look, we talked a couple of days ago, and Gavin Newsom posted yesterday, never happened. No phone call, no voicemail, never happened. What did Donald Trump do? He called John Roberts at Fox News, and he says, this is what John Roberts said on the news yesterday. Well, President Trump contacted me from Air Force One on his way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He said first call was not picked up. Second call, Gavin picked up. We spoke for 16 minutes. I told him to essentially, quote, get his ass in gear, close quote, and stop the riots, which were out of control. More than anything else, this shows what a liar he is. Said I never called. Here's the evidence. What did he do? Sent a screenshot of the phone call log that shows the missed call that lasted 4 seconds and the phone call that lasted 16 minutes. Gavin Newsom lies to your face because he thinks you're stupid.
From the Venable Glass Traffic,
Mississippi.
C-Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. Your team has you covered on the field. C-Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home, work, and on the go, backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. Quickly want to address this on the C-Spire text line. Walter says, he said they talked yesterday, June 9th. They spoke June 6th. Don't be dishonest with your listeners. Walter in Tupelo. Makes you no better than the fake news media you supposedly dislike. Well, Walter, you're playing a game of semantics. They actually, if you want to be technical, spoke on Saturday, June 7th. It was at 1:23 a.m. There were two calls. One that wasn't answered, lasted 4 seconds. Another one that was answered. They talked for 16 minutes. Trump said they talked. Newsom said they didn't. Trump brought the receipts. If I'm off a day on the timeline, I guess that makes me fake news media. Fair enough, buddy. All right. We welcome in the Lieutenant Governor this morning right here in the state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good morning. It sounds like you're in the political sphere this morning with people giving you grief about being off a day or making a quote or maybe even putting a dot in the wrong space.
Did you just make fun of me for taking a day off? It seems to be a running joke.
I'm just telling you, you need to be here every day. Something will get away from you.
That is certainly true. Things happen in a hurry. Always good to visit with you. I want us to spend the overwhelming majority of our time this morning talking about what's coming up.
Good.
I hope you will grant me one question in the rearview mirror about where we were.
All right.
What's the grade that you give to the 2025 legislative session on the whole?
You know, some of it depends on what the governor does here with some vetoes, quite frankly.
Okay.
We're waiting on some vetoes that we had discussed at the end of the session that involved some additional funding, some additional issues that arose that would harm our Medicaid reimbursement rate that would pass by the House, and the governor and I met a number of different times on getting those vetoed. I think when those get vetoed, we came out on our budget way. I thought we did an A. Very conservative, just a very small increase. We didn't even increase it by inflation. And I think the thing that gives us an A behind that is the thought. It's probably the content, the way you wrote your answer in the old days when we were taking those exams. And the way we wrote our answer was to be careful that we had enough cash in the event that the many things that were going on with Doge at the time and other things in the legislature, in the national legislature, that were going to cut money that was coming to Mississippi. We knew that we had cut $137 million from education and $100 million from health, and another $100 million was coming from health. And we had gotten Mississippi State University, their whole economic group up there, to give us an opinion whether we were going to have a recession. And they said we had a 40% chance of a recession. So when all of those came in, we tightened our budget. And that's difficult. And, it's obviously difficult in the national legislature. But down here, we don't print money. So we had to make sure we had enough cash. And so I think the fact that we held on to our cash, given many, many opportunities to spend it, quite frankly, on a lot of nice things that we might be able to use. I think that was some real backbone for your legislature this year. Not to just spew out a bunch of special projects somewhere or whatever they call it, a Christmas tree bill or something, but actually sit down and say, y'all, this is, as I use Mississippi State University's economists talking, this is a noisy time for us, and we need to be watchful. Now, we continue to generate on right now. The economics are, depending on what happens with the big, beautiful bill, there's a number of different other issues that could affect us significantly. Nobody thinks we're going to get more money out of the federal government than we've been getting, and we get about 45 to 50% of our budget from the federal government. So we were at risk. And I think the legislature, the throws you see go back and forth, that happens in the normal course of events. But I think the fact that we actually held on to our money and said, okay, guys, we're going to sit 1 year. And we're not going to do a lot of things maybe that we want to, or maybe some that we should have. And I think that was important. Number of other bills, the things that went on, education bills, other things. But I thought the fact that we cold-eyed looked at the risk that was facing us from the national scene, half our budget, and decided to hold some of our cash was important.
Do you anticipate that in 2026, if special projects get funded in a way that they weren't this year, that number next year will be a 2X number, that it'll make up for the year that wasn't funded, or is this just a lost year in terms of revenue to communities and special projects?
Well, I think that, of course, I'm hopeful that the 40% depression means 60% we won't get one. So
glass half full.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of looking at it like, well, boy, we don't have that recession. We should have extra funds. So I think it'll be another cold-eyed look at special projects and if we have the money and whatnot. Our primary, and this showed out this year, Richard, it's good you asked this question. Our primary responsibility is to take care of our education system, our highway patrol, our roads that are state roads, our government buildings, all the things that you expect us to do to run the government. That's the number one thing, and pay our employees and make sure they've got a decent retirement plan. Those are our key core. Now, when we've got additional funds, we've been cutting taxes. That's a good idea. We've cut taxes when we hadn't finished cutting taxes. So we're lowering taxes now all the way down to like 3% in the next 3 or 4 years. And so we cut taxes. Then the third thing is, if we have additional funds, after we've done our core competencies and we've cut taxes, then let's help our cities out with Main Street or additional funding for infrastructure or whatever in the counties and the cities. As it turns out, we had done about $900 million of that in the last 5 years. We had that much excess money over and above our tax cuts and everything else. So the way we gave it back to taxpayers was to hopefully improve their downtown, or give them a new road, or give the counties money to repair their bridges, and the things that we did. So those were good. When I looked at it, as of June 30th last year, about $300 million of that had not been spent. So yesterday when I was meeting with the Board of Supervisors, I was encouraging them, and I will at the Municipal League, encouraging them to spend those funds or come to the legislature and let's repurpose those. So I think it's $280 million that hadn't been spent of the roughly between $800 and $900 million. So we'll be looking at those, and hopefully those will be funds that we've already allocated that now can be spent on either another project or finishing the project we gave them the money for to start with. Going forward, I think the waterfall goes, if you use the economic analogy, the waterfall goes primary core things I'm responsible for, tax cuts, make sure people don't pay any more money than they need to, and then it falls over to these special projects. That's why they're called special projects. We're not responsible for a street in a city. The city's responsible for that. But where we can help them, it's very beneficial, I think.
Delbert Hosemann, Lieutenant Governor, visiting with us this morning on Mornings with Richard Cross. If you've got a question you want me to try to work in, you can send it to us on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Sometimes at the national level, we talk about Washington, D.C. being a bubble. And it's good for legislators to get outside the Beltway and back to their districts and understand what's going on. Similarly, I wonder if the state capitol can sometimes be a little bit of a bubble where legislators kind of get settled in, and this is the way we see things within this. The question in this is, when you're not in session, how much time do you spend traveling around the state to see what it looks like in Holly Springs, in DeKalb, in Hattiesburg, in et cetera, all over the state?
Just about daily. And since we left just a couple of weeks ago, I have been in Tupelo, Starkville, Hattiesburg. Was on the coast yesterday visiting in Jackson County, as you know, Pascagoula area. I'll be in Macomb tomorrow, Woodville, Liberty. Then I'll be in Natchez tomorrow night.
And that's intentional, right?
Oh, yeah. You're right. You're dead right about the bubble. I don't learn anything in there. The way I learn something is I get out and in these meetings, I call them round tables, and give you an example. We're all over the state doing that, and I'll be in the Delta on Friday, so I'm going all over the state, and I ask a number of people that come in. I don't ask them what party they're in or anything else. I won't, as I say, people that are working, that may have issues with the state. Sometimes it's bankers, sometimes it's boards of supervisors, sometimes it's just regular people running a company. And we sit in a room, like yesterday, I think we had like 6 tables with about 6 or 7. I guess we had probably 40 people in there. Probably 5 or 6 of them were newly elected aldermen and mayors in Jackson County. And then some businessmen. We got a great shade company down there I'll tell you about someday. Superior's wonderful. But anyway, I open mic. And I asked, all right, what do you need? And we talked about the port. They have some needs at their port there. And there are different needs in Pascagoula than they are in Tupelo when I met with them. Yeah. Or in Starkville, where they can't get water and sewer outside of the city. Mayor Spruill and I met about that 2 weeks ago. So I learn a lot, and you don't learn anything in the bubble.
Visiting with Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. On the other side of the break, we'll talk about some of the things that he sees as important. We will try to hit on a reorganization of state government. There is a significant education conversation that is on the horizon, and a whole lot more. Quick time out. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
From the Seabrook Paint. From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you on this Wednesday morning, the 11th of June, 2025. My guest right now is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann. Always kind with his time. Good to be with you.
Good to see you, Richard. Welcome back from baseball.
Thank you. And I even worked in a couple of days of golf after baseball was over.
Man, you the man. I tell you what, somebody while you were gone changed the entire economic structure of NCAA.
Yes. I hope we have time to get to NIL. It's interesting to me that you have kind of dipped your toes into the NIL water.
I have. I've always been really interested in sports, and this new the new college commission that's set up by the Big Four, the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and SEC, to run the money and police the $20.5 million that our athletes will now receive. It's just a groundbreaking time, and the issues remaining, for example, Mississippi State and Ole Miss and all those got to pay $2 million a year to pay off the $2.8 billion settlement.
Yeah.
And those kids that played after 2016, some of them will get a check for $200,000. Average check will be $91,000. So it's a huge thing, and going forward, they basically, the ones that have money are supposed to be going to now police their $20.5 million, and also
I believe that's the golden rule.
Yeah,
he who has the gold makes the rules.
That's exactly right, and they're also setting up this NIGO, which is to cover the NIL portion that basically had been used to pay players, really. So now they're going to police those, and they'll really have to be contracts to actually perform services for a third party. And I looked on the University of Cincinnati's website, and they were bragging they have 8 Fortune 500 companies in the area. So their NIL was going to be significantly large. So that's where you're going to see some differentiate themselves. And the NCAA was basically feckless on money anymore. And so they'll be, I guess they can tell you if you can kick off from the 35 or the 40 and probably hire the referees, but they're getting where they don't have any control over the money. Things change a whole lot. So very interesting. And the reason I was interested in is that so much of our state remembers that, Archie Manning from Drew and Steve McNair from down at McGee, and Walter Payton played in the band in Columbia, and we all had our own boys, our own young men that we supported. Dak Prescott wasn't from here but played here. And, it's kind of our team versus your team. And with this pay for play, I think that is pretty much obviated, and it's kind of sad.
It's certainly different. There's so many directions we could go with that.
I know. The young people deserve to be paid. That's one part of it. The coaches got to be paying so much money, and the kids were getting, young people were getting nothing. So it just, the pendulum swung too far, and now
$20.5 million is the starting revenue share number.
Right.
Lion's share of that's going to go to football, then men's basketball, then whatever's left will kind of get scattered among all the other sports. And to me, the sad part is if you are in a financial crunch, there's a likelihood that some sports will be eliminated, and that means some opportunities will be eliminated as well.
I think that's right, and I think our Olympics will like the one who won the gold medal for pole vaulting was an Ole Miss track player. So
Sam Kendricks.
Yeah, and so you look, those training facilities and everything will now be under pressure. And the one thing you shouldn't look at it as just as an SEC thing, because in the Big East, they don't have football.
Right.
So now they got $20 million for St. John's basketball players. So their starting point guard will be making $2.5 million or $3 million. Our starting point guard at Mississippi State won't be able to make that much. So there's some things in there in Title IX. How do you reconcile what you're paying $1 million to $3 million to the quarterback, or $4? I've heard as much at Michigan as $10 million. How are you going to reconcile $4 million for that, and the ladies' basketball team gets $300,000 for the whole team?
It's going to be interesting to see how the Title IX plays into it. The way I reconcile it is revenue generation versus a drain on resources, but I'm not sure that that's what the courts are going to feel about Title IX.
I'm hopeful that they'll give some federal. Tuberville was a leader in that, because of his coaching experience.
Yeah, but he's going to be a governor now.
I know, and now he's gone. I don't know anybody up there that has the expertise or really to swing that kind of thing. Like, how are you going to reconcile all these things? Are you going to give antitrust exclusions like they do for baseball and whatnot? All of that's coming.
We could spend a really long time
I know,
on this,
you're
but let's hold that thought for now.
You are.
Most people, as they look to the 2026 session, believe that education is going to be the biggest topic, that's going to be the thing that grabs all the headlines going into this coming session. When you and I have talked about education in the past, there have been some things that you have pointed to that are not necessarily related to school choice that you think are important within the education conversation. But more people in Mississippi are talking about the school choice piece of it and portability issues and all of those things. Where are you in that conversation? I know when we talked, I guess it was right before the session began this year, you told me that you were open to movement district to district, but not district to private, and there are just a lot of layers there.
There are, and I start, as one of our guys said, one of our senators said, we need to be kid-centric, and I think that's correct. So to me, I start with F schools, and anybody in an F school ought to be able to leave, period. Okay. And then we ought to be able to pay. When you go to another school, our $6,700 or $800 we pay doesn't cover the cost. So the counties are putting up money and to subsidize the remaining balance of the education piece. So we pay the teachers, but there's a good bit more that goes into that. So I thought they ought to go, and we ought to be able to pay whatever the difference is. If it costs $10,000 at that district and we were giving them $6,800, we ought to give them the rest of it. We ought to give them the other $3,200 to make sure that they're whole wherever those kids wanted to be. Get to be an F school, you really have to mess up. And you think people would say, well, we want to give them a chance to come back and give them a few years. Well, those kids don't have a few years. They need to be educated now. And you miss the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade while they're trying to reform a school. That's up to the parent, whether they want to do that or not. But if they want to move, I think they ought to be able to move, just period. And we ought to pay for it. On portability, we have said before that a child that wants to leave shouldn't be able to be held by a district. If a mom and dad decide that they want to move their kids somewhere else, they should be able to do that. Okay. Then the second part of that is what we call capacity. You can't just show up somewhere and say, well, you got to cover me. It has to be where they can move to somewhere that has room for them. You don't have to buy, have a whole nother classroom and pay a whole nother teacher or build on or anything else for 3 kids, for example. So there has to be capacity there. And I think those are the linchpins of what we're talking about here. The federal government's jumped into this some, talking about vouchers. And, of course, if they give vouchers out to everybody that has children, 90% of our kids are in public education, as you know. About 35,000 are in private schools. Figuring it's 2 per family, that'd be about...
In Mississippi.
In Mississippi, that's correct.
Okay.
And then we have home schools that have probably about 5,000 in them. All the rest of the kids are in public schools somewhere. So we want to concentrate on our public schools. I think yesterday, the new test came out. We've been 50th just about as long as I can remember. Yeah. And we started putting money into, we raised the teacher salaries. I want to raise them again this year.
Okay. And it's good news for teachers.
Well, they went from 50th to 30th to now, yesterday, 16th.
Talking about in the overall ranking.
Yeah. So when you think about this,
so you want to reward them for a job well done.
Well, we want to acknowledge it. They were doing a really good job, and I want to acknowledge it monetarily. So
what does that pay raise look like?
The last time we did one, it was about $150 to $200 million spread across a number of different teachers running somewhere.
Would that work out to about $2,000 a teacher?
No, it was a little bit more than that. I think it was a little bit more than that. Could anywhere from $2,000, depending on a lot of other factors. But
sure.
But $2,000 or $3,000 per teacher would be a good start to me. Okay. I think that would be a real good start to tell these people that we want to raise them anyway. Their insurance has gone up and whatnot. But we also want to acknowledge, like you say, you're doing a really good job. in a lot of places. And so we want to acknowledge that you're doing a good job. And there's some other holes we have, Richard, and you're skipping over my community college teachers. They have not had the raises that we've had in the undergraduate, and the same at the university system. So there's some other money, I think, that needs to go towards the teachers we have at community college.
So when you say our focus needs to be on public schools because that's where the majority of the students are, does that mean no universal school choice?
I don't see that being passed in the Senate. When I talk to my senators about that, there's just not the votes there for just everybody go wherever you want to go in private schools or whatever. They're just not in the votes there for that.
Delbert Hosemann, Lieutenant Governor. We will wrap up the conversation on the other side of this break. You're listening to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
We both knew it was just a matter of time. Living our dreams, oh, you on top.
Glad to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. As is almost always the case when I get the chance to visit with Lieutenant Governor, I have more questions than we have time for answers. So,
well, I'll come back. Just invite me back.
That's great. You have an open invitation.
Thank you. Finishing on that community college part, Richard, I think it's important that we have last dollar free tuition for community college. And we proposed that and passed it last year in the Senate, and it died in the House, and I want to bring it back. The 12 years that we're educating our children, much better now to 16th in the country, those 12 years still won't make us competitive in a worldwide economy. We need a 13th and a 14th year. A lot of that may be for technical skills that people then go work at the new Amazon AI or whatever, and others may be on more welders or carpenters or base skills or plumbers or HVAC or whatever. But that extra year is very important, I think, to upgrade and continue to upgrade our economic workforce. Our workforce needs to be competitive. Now, that's a draw for us in Mississippi. We're bringing in all this great industry. The governor's doing a great job. We're popping up all over, from Marshall County electric batteries to aluminum mills in Columbus to AI down. All over Mississippi, people are coming here. We've got lower taxes. We've got great economy. We've got energy, which is a really big thing. And we're putting in 2 new plants. All of that's going on. But there's a limit to the workforce. We have to have an educated workforce. And to me, that comes with an additional work from the community college. And I've met with Accelerate, who does that kind of thing for the state of Mississippi. Remember, we reorganized that several years ago, and they're focused on high-need jobs. And, and I've also met with the community college system to actually get those two together on what a 13th year would look like for individuals. So there'd be no barrier to our young men and women getting an additional education year or 2, or maybe even going to the 4 years as far as that goes.
For a long time, the community college system has been a beacon in Mississippi, and it may be more important today than it's ever been, specifically with what you're talking about, those skilled jobs, preparing skilled workers. I do want to ask you this. I know we were right up against the break when I asked you about the universal school choice, and you said that you don't think you've got the votes in the Senate and that you don't believe the money is there. Why is it, or how is it, that in looking at the exact same issue, you and your Senate colleagues see this so differently than they do on the other side of the hall? Because you're looking at the same balance sheet.
The balance sheet is one thing. The part of the success, Richard, that has occurred in Mississippi is at these various schools create a provincial attitude. For example, I've got a really great A schools. I was in 2 A schools yesterday afternoon, and then we were with Haley Barber last night on the coast, going back over Katrina 20 years ago. But I was with some of the people, and I was with the superintendent in Jackson County, and who has 3 high schools down there. And they are provincial. I mean, they've got it working down there. They have something called the Hope Group, where they take where they take kids vote on a group of people to help them when they have a problem, not the starting quarterback or the head cheerleader or something, but kids vote on a hope squad, and that hope squad comes to help them if they've got problems at home or broke up with a boyfriend or whatever they think they need to talk to somebody about. So that school district has created its own culture about that kind of thing and other things. And so when we talk about bringing somebody outside the culture, they call their senator and say, I got an A school here. It's going really well. And y'all have been giving us funds for that, and we want to run our A schools. And we're not necessarily wanting to take all the ones from Harrison County or the ones from here or there. So they see it, I think, as being disruptive and from a process that's working right now for these districts. Clinton, it doesn't, all over, DeSoto County, wherever they are, Tupelo, but a lot of those have Republican senators, and they listen to their superintendents and their teachers, and their superintendents and their teachers want to continue the culture that they've got in that school system, which has produced A schools. So when you do,
are you concerned about Mississippi being the only state in this region of the country that has not gone? I mean, we talked about economic development and how much good is happening and people are moving to the state, but when you look around us, the other states have chosen to go with that full school choice. Does that matter?
I don't know if those other states are 16th in the test scores. We just talked about this. I want to do what's best for the children in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I appreciate learning things from Arkansas or some of their kind of phasing one in, or wherever. Those are all good things to learn from and see as a map forward. But it's not necessarily effective for Mississippi or not. Now, we've got weak schools that I'm more concerned about than I am the ones that are all getting A's. When I leave those alone, they're doing great work. And look at the test scores. So I don't know if the rest of them are all 16th in the country or not. So I think some of this is going to be what works best for Mississippi, and then when you get past that, what works best for each one of the 140 districts we've got.
Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, I always appreciate your time. I promise next time we'll get to some of the housing accessibility issues that you've been focused
we've been
on,
working
and
on that. It's
reorganization of state government as well.
Yeah,
we'll
we've got
there.
some really good things coming, Rich. I hope we'll get a chance to do that. And you're
Let's
good
do it
about
soon.
allowing us to get into detail, which is good.
Thank you.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Went to the doctor to check out what's
My thanks to Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann for joining me this morning. Good conversation with him. I mean, we literally could have spent another hour kind of unpacking some of the issues that could be on the horizon for the 2026 legislative session here in Mississippi. Good news is he certainly said that he was willing to come back, and we will continue to dive into these conversations. I hope that Lieutenant Governor Hosemann gives more detailed answers than some people that we visit with, and that's kind of the way that he thinks about things. So I do hope that you listen to his, even if you disagree with his opinions or the answers that he gives, I hope that you actually listen to kind of what he's saying and understand where he's coming from. Appreciate his time this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. We go from the Lieutenant Governor to the State Medical Officer. Dr. Dan Edney joins us this morning. Dr. Dan, hello to you. Hope you're having a great summer so far.
Yes. Good morning, Richard. Glad to be with you.
Why is it that it stinks so much worse to get sick in the summer than it does in the winter? That's a very technical medical question. Okay.
Too dang hot.
That's
too hot to be sick.
Yeah, that's as good an answer as any. Appreciate your time. What's top of the list right now? What's the thing that you are most focused on at the State Department of Health as we do make this transition from spring into summer, and it seems like the concerns change a little bit seasonally?
They do for us at a population level. As we get towards the fall, we'll be gearing back up for respiratory illness season. But during the summer, we deal with a lot of gastrointestinal outbreak issues, norovirus, which can happen a lot in congregate settings like nursing homes, but also casinos and big buffet areas. We have an active salmonella outbreak related to a restaurant, and that kind of stuff just tends to happen a lot more in the summer. Our really top tier project right now, our signature effort right now, is our 4th statewide system of care that's entitled the Obstetrical System of Care, which is designed to reduce our maternal infant mortality rate with our high-risk moms and babies. And Richard, once we get this system designed and in place, we will be the only state that has 4 statewide systems: trauma, heart attack, stroke, and now high-risk OB.
You mentioned trauma, and I guess the trauma hospital of record in the state is UMMC. We see this incredible growth that's happening and a widening footprint for UMMC. What does that mean for communities outside of Jackson?
Well, I think many times smaller rural community hospitals that are struggling to make margin are looking for partners like UMC. If you also notice, the Baptist Medical Center footprint is enlarging with, Oktibbeha County being purchased. The Ochsner footprint, it has enlarged. So that's really kind of the model for many of the smaller independent hospitals that just aren't making it, or to find health system partners to come in and either partner with them or either acquire them. And UMC is a substantial healthcare system. They're an academic healthcare system, but a healthcare system nonetheless.
Is that acquisition of smaller hospitals financially beneficial for the bigger hospitals, or is it just they have the ability to kind of spread the losses farther and wider, and so they can handle it?
Well, it better be financially advantageous, or we have had some acquisitions that went south in the state, but usually systems like I just named have exactly the capacity you're talking about. Their spreadsheets can take on that extra debt and manage that debt better. And more, really importantly, you'll understand this, Lance will understand it from the financial background. You've got to have access to capital to make it in healthcare. And the smaller county independent hospitals really are losing access to capital that they used to have. The larger healthcare systems are able to. I mean, if you're not making margin, if you're not in the black with your margins with healthcare, you're not going to have the ability to finance new projects or to service debt, the way that you need to. So
lenders are just looking
the
at
larger
that as
systems are able to do that.
Lenders are just looking at it as too high risk of an investment for them.
Yes, it's the smaller you get, especially we have several hospitals with chronic debt. Then that worries them even more. And knowing that the challenges with healthcare financing and infrastructure management are becoming more complicated, not less so. It is, the venture capitalists are coming into healthcare in a big way, but they're being really choosy.
Visiting with Dr. Dan Edney, State Health Officer. Back in the winter, bird flu popped up and became a very real thing. And, people talked a lot about egg prices based on who was in the Oval Office. It could be that bird flu actually had a larger role in the price of eggs. Is there any concern about that on the human population side? Or is that something you're looking at in the state health department? Or is that completely a Department of Agriculture issue?
It's a great partnership, actually, Richard, between us, the Agriculture Commission, but also the Board of Animal Health. Dr. Watson, who's a state veterinarian, is doing a lot of leadership in this area. And really, with the bird flu situation, we're serving in support. We're doing a lot of monitoring and testing. The Board of Animal Health is managing the flocks, and they've had to order the destruction, of several flocks in the state, but nothing recently. And it really has calmed down. And what we're watching, we know that this virus has the ability to jump from birds into other mammals, definitely dairy cattle, which we worry about, but also we've had human transmission cases. But so far, it's not mutating in a way that worries us, and we've not had to intervene. And we've had no human bird cases in Mississippi. And right now, as I understand it, all the flocks are clear. But, when you have to sacrifice an entire flock, to keep it from propagating, that drives chicken prices up and definitely drives egg prices up.
There are parts of the country that don't have to deal with this as much as we do. But if you live in Mississippi and you spend any time outdoors, there is a really good chance that at some point you are going to end up with a tick, either crawling or embedding. I got a good friend that has alpha-gal. It was a tick bite that he got, and all of a sudden he can't eat meat from hoofed animals anymore. Creates a terrible reaction if that's the case. Is this new? I mean, is this something in the last decade that we're seeing, or is this something that has been around for a long time and we just didn't recognize it?
It's been around for a long time, better understood now, which is common in medicine. A lot of times when you see an increase in prevalence of things, a lot of times it's because medicine has better diagnostics and has figured it out, and we're able to identify more cases. But tick bites are really dangerous in a lot of ways. Don't forget Lyme disease.
Lyme disease, sure.
But very importantly, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. We have many tick-borne illnesses. So I preach it. If you have kids that playing outside in the summertime, tick checks twice a day. Check them in the morning, check them in the evening, get them off. A tick bite itself is nothing to panic over, but when a tick attaches and engorges for a while, then they're able to transmit the pathogens that they have. And especially if you have a tick bite that gets, that has this strange rash coming out from it, especially if it looks like a bullseye target, that's more high risk of being Lyme disease and need to get attention for it.
And I don't know that there's any way to avoid them. I mean, you can spend 10 minutes outside or 10 hours outside, and you're just as likely to get one.
Yeah, ticks or chiggers, either one. It's part of being kids in Mississippi. Let them play. Let them play safely. I'm more worried about them getting dehydrated than about the tick bites. But do pay attention to it. I tell you the other thing, when talking about bird flu, we have had our first case of West Nile, and we had a rough year with West Nile disease last year, and we had more deaths and more cases. So just remember, if you see a sick bird in your yard, leave them alone. If you find a dead bird in the yard, put gloves on, use a shovel to dispose of them. Don't pick it up. You can get it could give you bird flu, or it could give you West Nile, and just protect yourself from those mosquitoes.
There you go. Be smart. Dr. Dan Edney, State Health Officer with Mississippi State Department of Health. Thanks as always for your time. Look forward to visiting soon.
Thank you. Always.
Stay safe out there. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Small wheel turn by fire and rock. Big wheel turn by the grace of God. Every time that wheel turn round, bound to color just a little more ground.
Good to be back with you. Thanks to Dr. Dan Edney for joining us. The tick conversation just kind of popped into my head as we were visiting, but man, that's a real thing like some of the diseases that come as a result of a tick bite, bad stuff. Whether you're talking about Lyme disease or alpha-gal or any of the other things that can transmit. But there's no way to avoid them, Lance. If you work in the yard, if you play in the yard, if you're just going for a walk down the sidewalk, you can come back, and if you're not careful, you can end up with a tick bite.
Pesky
or a
little
tick
rascals.
crawling on you.
Yeah, they're
nasty.
Nuisance.
Itch.
Oh man!
Make sure you get that head out when you pull them out too.
If I get bit by one, it'll leave a mark for a year, like a red ant. And the red ants are just about as bad. They just don't have all the diseases that come with it, but the scar that they leave, both of them are brutal.
Yeah. Zach in Oxford says, just now tuning in, I get bit last year. Now I'm on blood pressure medicine.
Oh, Zach, that's my buddy.
Said he went from taking 0 medication to 4 every day. Neighbor can't eat hoofed animals anymore. Yeah, that's. Wow. I got a good buddy that it was 3 years ago, I think. Tick bite, and it was one of those Lone Star ticks, right? The ones that got the little white star on their backs, and those are the ones that tend to carry that more. And it's real.
You ain't got to worry about the mosquitoes, too. I mean, we get it all here.
Yeah, we do. But we also get to live in Mississippi, praise the Lord.
Makes you tougher. Have to deal with that stuff.
Among other things, it makes you... It's a good place.
Good place.
It's a really good place. Thomas and a couple of others suggesting things that you should spray in your yard. I get that, right? I mean, you want to make your yard, your sanctuary, the place where you spend most of your time as insect-free as it can be, but most people aren't limited just to their yard, whether it's a quarter of an acre or 500 acres. You get out and about, you go fishing, you go to the golf course, you go to the park, you just go for a walk, whatever it is. You can't spray everything. It's like when you spray for mosquitoes, it's amazing how much more effective the mosquito spray you use if the neighbors all around you are spraying for mosquitoes too. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because let's just say you got an acre. Let's just say that you live in a neighborhood where houses sit on acres or half acres. Doesn't matter. If you just spray your yard, perimeter, plants, all that good stuff, yeah, maybe you're going to keep mosquitoes just off your back porch. But when all of your neighbors spray around you and that kind of creates a buffer, now you got something that's working a whole lot better for everybody. So, I don't know. That just kind of local experience. That tick bite stuff's a bad deal, though. Be careful. Yeah, just, do the... Like, you got to run your hands all over your body. You're like, man, what is that? That's a tick, doggone it. I mean, it's like the way it feels. And they tend to get in. They're not like just hanging out on your arm out there in the exposed area. They tend to get in the nether regions, places where it's a little harder to get to and itches more. And then you look like a moron for scratching in those areas. You know what I'm saying, Lance?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I know. I'm sitting back enjoying the conversation here.
You're just letting me kind of dig this all on
I've
my
had
own.
them in the wrong places many times.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Good news this morning. Consumer Price Index, the month-over-month rise was less than the experts thought it was going to be, which is a good thing. None of the 73 economists in Bloomberg's survey predicted a core reading as low as 0.1%. So core CPI strips out food and energy rose by 0.1% from the previous month. Year-on-year basis, core inflation ran at 2.8% for a third straight month, holding at the slowest pace of inflation growth since it surged in the spring of 2021. And the CPI ticked up to 2.4% from 2.3%. Okay, so the consumers are spending more. Inflation is stable 3 months running. Maybe that recession that we were so concerned about is less likely than it was. Market fundamentals have been pretty good since Donald Trump has taken office. And look, you got to give him credit. Right? I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of people that are involved in this and lots of countries, and it's a global economy and all of those things. But if you are going to blame a president when the economy goes in the tank, you have to credit a president when the economy is doing well. Like you don't get to do it both ways. You don't get to say the economy at the beginning of Biden's administration was a result of what Trump had done, and at the end of the administration, it was his fault, and then give Biden credit for, now maybe that's how it should go. You know, maybe you should be looking at the economy, but there are always lots of factors that go into it. So, pretty good news on the economic front this morning if you are tracking that. Oh, we've got other good news. Lance, did you hear about this? This comes from the esteemed Maxine Waters. Good news from Maxine Waters. There wasn't actually any violence in Los Angeles. Here you go.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Okay. Don't rely on what you're being told, and don't rely on what your eyes saw. There was no violence. I was there. You can trust me.
Well, she said
Joe
there was no
Biden
shooting and
did
killing.
not have cognitive decline. He was moving just as well at the end of his presidency as he was when he was first elected a senator 40 years ago. Trust me on this. I've seen him. I've worked with him. Don't trust your own eyes. Don't trust what you're listening to. Listen to me. I am Maxine Waters, and there was no violence in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and also she was real, had a big time taunting the guardsmen and all that stuff too. So, I mean, she's got an agenda. There's no doubt about that.
Maxine.
Wow. No, but she said nobody got shot and killed, so there's no violence.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess that's the new definition.
When you're taking a quarter of a broken cinder block and throwing it off an overpass at a police officer and it hits him in the head, that's not violent.
No, that's peaceful.
What looks like bowling ball-sized hail that hit the roofs of those police cars, that's not violent. The shadowed windshields in the cruisers, not violent. And look, lest there be any doubt in your mind, listen to Representative Yvette Clarke in her own words.
Let me be clear. Congressional Democrats stand in full solidarity with the residents of Los Angeles, with our immigrant sisters and brothers, and with the peaceful protesters who dare to speak out and who will support every effort to oppose this president's abuse of power. But let me be clear.
Let me be clear. Full solidarity. Congressional Democrats stand in full solidarity with the citizens of Los Angeles, with our immigrant brothers and sisters, and these peaceful protesters. And they've got to be peaceful protesters. I mean, Maxine just told us there is no violence. I don't know what you people are thinking, right? I mean, how dare you? How dare you watch these videos, listen to these interviews, listen to what these crowds are saying, and accuse these people of violence? Who do you think you are? How dare you come to that conclusion? Maxine and Yvette told us congressional Democrats, lockstep. Solidarity. There's no violence. And poo on you for thinking there is. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the SeabrookPaint.com with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. Don't forget the C Spire text line is open to you. The number is 601-879-4395. The best teams know how to get even better. That's why C Spire constantly enhances their wireless, fiber internet, and business solutions for you. Visit cspire.com today. C Spire, inspired by you. C Spire text line. Old Delbert, the consummate politician, sure skirted the issue on universal choice with Richard. Talks about spending money with no regard for the taxpayers of this state. May I push back on that? I actually don't think he skirted the issue at all. I think his answer is just not what a lot of people want to hear. If you paid attention to what Delbert said, the lieutenant governor said, I think he was abundantly clear about his position. And I think it tells you what's coming in January. And that is House Speaker Jason White and his colleagues in the House are going to champion a bill for universal school choice. And it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. And if there is no compromise between the two sides, then we will go another year without a school choice bill. If there is compromise, then it's going to be a portability issue for failing districts, students in failing districts with the ability to move into better districts. And also some district-to-district movement if District B is willing to take the student from District A. And I think the money will follow the student in that case. But Delbert Hosemann told us as plain and simple as he could say it, there is no appetite in the Senate. The votes are not there for universal school choice. Now, when you say he skirted the issue, when I asked about surrounding states, Arkansas, Tennessee, and others, with universal school choice, he didn't directly answer that. But he did say, well, tell me about their test scores. Are they 16th in the country? Which is what we found out yesterday. Which, by the way, cue the test scores, blah, 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 blah. Like, I get it. I'm so over that conversation about whether the test scores are relevant or not. They are. Are they the only thing that matters? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not the only thing that determines whether or not we're educating our children. But when you finish DFL year after year after year after year after year after year after year, and all of a sudden you're in the top 20 out of 50, that is real progress. And there is no way to spin that otherwise. Whether you like the testing system, whether you like the teaching system, whether you like Common Core, any of that stuff, there's no way to spin it. The results speak for themselves. There's a reason we have a scoreboard. Period. Mike in Columbus. Was mobile sports betting covered? No, it wasn't. It was not. We didn't get anywhere within 100 miles of mobile sports betting. And honestly, I think it's kind of a niche issue. Like, I'm not passionate about it one way or the other. You're like, hey, Richard, would you rather have legalized mobile sports betting in Mississippi or not? Yes, I would rather it be legalized. I think it's dumb not to. It's really dumb. I can go to a casino and place a bet. I can go to a sports book and place a bet. I can't pull out my phone and place a bet. I'm still in the same place. That's dumb. But I don't think it's a defining issue of our time in Mississippi. I do think we're leaving money on the table, tax revenue on the table, which also strikes me as dumb. But look, I'm just not going to get as up in arms as some about mobile sports betting. Thomas in Greenwood, yet there is an appetite in the House to senators have different constituents than representatives. Thomas, I think that is a reasonable question. Maybe even an exceptional question. I hope you've been listening long enough to know that when I have guests on, I'm going to ask them questions, and unless they say something that is just like a well-known, all-out falsehood, I'm going to let them answer the question. And I'm going to let them make their case. And generally speaking, I'm not going to be super combative in interviews. So maybe that's a follow-up question I should have asked the Lieutenant Governor. What's different about your constituency that is different than the House constituency? But I just asked him the question about, hey, clearly this is an issue that the House side of the hall views differently than the Senate side of the hall. Why? And he answered it the way he answered it. So back to the original message. Old Delbert, the consummate politician, sure skirted the issue. I actually don't think he did at all. I think he absolutely answered the question. Multiple times. And you get to decide whether you like or don't like, agree or disagree with how he answered the question. That's why we have elections. You don't like the answer, you vote for somebody else. That's how your voice gets heard. You can join the conversation as well. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Did you see this on CNN yesterday? This is wild. On the who do you trust more on immigration? Democrats or Republicans? The move over the last 4-5 years is remarkable. Here's Harry Enton, CNN political analyst, formerly of 538.com, now at CNN, talking about this shift.
Immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats, more so than any other group.
All right, so let's make sure we hear what is being said there. This is not among the general population. Among immigrant voters, which means legal immigrant citizens in the United States who have earned the right to vote. In 2020, among immigrant American citizens, their level of trust for Democrats versus Republicans on immigration issues was plus 32 points. Democrats over Republicans. Since 2020, from 2020 to where we are now, 2025, June of 2025, what has happened? Joe Biden has served a term in office. Or as Donald Trump says, the auto pen has served a term in office. There has been a 40-point swing within the same group. That is, immigrant, legal citizens who vote. And they now have a plus 8 favorability of Republicans in terms of handling immigration. What does that mean? What does it mean? It means legal immigrants, the people who went through the process to earn their American citizenship, are saying, get rid of the illegal immigrants. That's what they're saying. A 40-point swing from way to the left to solidly on the right. That's not like they were kind of hanging out in the middle, and one day the wind blows one way and they kind of lean to the left, and another day the wind blows the other way and they kind of lean to the right. No, this is people that were way out to the left, who have now not just come to the middle, but have taken a bunch of steps to the right to say Republicans are better at handling this immigration thing. Guess who's not listening? Democrats. It has messaging and listening to the American people has already cost the Democrats a presidential election. And immediately after the election, what did you hear? James Carville, Democrats got to change their messaging. They got to quit using big words. They got to quit hanging on these 80-20 issues that 80% of the population, regardless of party, believes, and yet they're hanging on to the 20% because those are loud, radical voices. Why are they doing that? We got to change the message. What are they doing? They're not changing the message. They're doubling down and then redoubling and then redoubling again. If you're a Republican, you're like, oh, redouble it again. Democrats continue on this path. They're done winning national elections.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
All right, 3 things with you to wrap up this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. I lied, 4 things. If you're in the market for a new or a pre-owned vehicle, Belk Ford Oxford Toyota is the place to go. You can find them online at belkford.net, oxfordtoyota.com. Great selection on the lot of both new vehicles and pre-owned vehicles. A sales staff that will go out of their way to make sure that the car buying experience is not one that you hate. I get it. Like, you're spending a lot of money if you're buying a car. There may not be a scenario where you love the car buying or truck buying or SUV buying experience, but they're going to make sure it's one that you don't hate because they're good people. And they're not going to be pushy, and they're going to help you find the best financing options. And here's the thing about Belk Ford. They're not going anywhere. The Belk family has been in the automobile industry for over 100 years. They have roots that are deep in North Mississippi, but you don't have to live in North Mississippi to take advantage. You can be like our friend John in Houston, who's driving in from Houston, Texas, to pick up a new F-150 Raptor next Thursday. He's fired up about it, and so are they. Let Belk Ford help you with your next vehicle purchase. Whether it's new or pre-owned, they will take care of you. Belk Ford, Oxford, Toyota. Certainly would appreciate it if you told them that you heard about it on Mornings with Richard Cross. All right, now 3 things. First, Steve Leisman, senior economic reporter at CNBC, giving you some context to what the economic numbers mean that came out earlier today.
I want to make this point, which is that the concern at the Federal Reserve was not just that tariff-related prices would go up. It's that it would spread more broadly to other tariff prices, and that the issue of inflation expectations, which she talked about very eloquently this morning with Richard Clarida, would be an issue for the Federal Reserve. Not only did we get a decline in inflation expectations earlier this week from the important New York Fed report, but even if I zero in on just the tariff-related increases, I look elsewhere and I do not see broader impacts on inflation from the tariffs.
All right, that's good news from Steve Leisman, senior economic reporter at CNBC. How about this headline? Front page of the Arizona Republic, azcentral.com if you want to read the thing yourself. I don't know if it's password protected or behind a paywall. Here's the headline on the front page of the Arizona Republic. For the first time in decades, the border is silent. Here's the first paragraph of the story. Across the entire span of the U.S.-Mexico border, the change is stark, and it happened nearly overnight. Where Border Patrol agents encountered well over 100,000 migrants and asylum seekers every month just a year ago, they now see fewer than 10,000. And the number's actually probably smaller than that. More than 4 months into President Trump's second term, one of his signature campaign promises, shutting down the flow of migrants across the border, seems fulfilled. Reporters with the USA Today Network traveled to 15 sites along the border, from the Pacific to the Gulf, from California to Arizona and Texas, and found much of the same situation in each. There are a lot of people that cover this president that have used the catchphrase, promises made, promises kept. And then here's the third thing. Everybody's focused on protests that have gone from Los Angeles to big cities all across the country in just a few days' time. And when we start looking inwardly, we sometimes don't look outwardly as much. And so I certainly would not be surprised if you missed this yesterday. A video message from Saad bin Atef al-Awlaki. I almost got it. He's the leader of Al-Qaeda. I'm going to play it so you hear his voice, and I'm going to translate with the captions on the screen. As a first practical and immediate measure, I call upon every Muslim in the infidel, criminal, and arrogant United States, and it does not matter if they are of Arab, American, or other descent. What matters is that they should be Muslims whose prophet is Muhammad. And there are 4.5 million Muslims in America alone. I am saying to all of them, revenge, revenge. Do not consult anyone about killing infidel Americans. You should have a lot of determination of the list of your targets, and the list of your targets should be effective. Go after the scum of the earth and its greatest criminals. This is Trump and his VP. This is Elon Musk and his advisor, and his supporter in terms of finance, administration, and technology. These are his Secretary of State and his Secretary of Defense. Go after their families and all those who have any ties or are close to the politicians of the White House. A call for jihad from the leader of Al-Qaeda. And he called out specifically American leaders and their families, and for all followers of Islam, whose prophet is Muhammad, to go kill these people. Probably a good time to be thankful that you better have a commander-in-chief that doesn't placate criminals. And if you think some of these infidels didn't come across the border illegally, then you got your head buried in the sand. That's scary stuff. Sorry to leave you on a scary note. Thanks for being with us this morning. Appreciate the Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann, and Dr. Dan Edney for joining us. And I always appreciate my boy, Lance. Hope you have a great Wednesday. We're back with you tomorrow morning, just after 6 o'clock. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.